It wasn't a war. It wasn't a speech. It was just the ticking of a clock louder than armies, heavier than kings. That night, the world stood still, only to realize that time never does. And in that silence, humanity discovered a truth it had long ignored: time waits for no one. For centuries, nations built their pride on power, wealth, and the illusion of permanence. Leaders believed their reigns would last forever, armies thought their victories immortal, and people imagined tomorrow would always come. But when that night fell, the illusion shattered. Every passing second became a reminder that no throne is eternal, no victory is permanent, and no life is guaranteed beyond its moment. What shook the world was not a battle, not a revolution, but something more profound: the realization that time is the one force no human, no empire, and no nation can ever control. It is silent, yet it destroys more than wars. It is invisible, yet it leaves its mark on everything. Kings grow old, cities decay, empires collapse, not because they lack power, but because time has no master. That night, humanity saw the truth reflected in its own history. Every monument built to defy time eventually crumbles. Every leader who once shaped destiny becomes a name in a book. Every chance ignored becomes a regret that cannot be undone. And in that moment, the world understood that the most valuable resource is not gold, not land, not armies, but time itself. The ticking clock carried a message across the world: tomorrow is never promised, and every second wasted is a second lost forever. That night, the silence of time spoke louder than the noise of history, and the world finally listened. That night, when the world realized time waits for no one, the first lesson became clear: power has an expiration date. For centuries, empires and rulers imagined their strength would last forever. They built walls, armies, and legacies, convinced they could defy the inevitable. Yet history has proven time and again that nothing, no matter how mighty, can resist the passage of time. The greatest kingdoms that once shaped the earth now exist only as ruins, visited by tourists and studied in books. The rulers who once demanded obedience are remembered only through faded portraits and half-forgotten names. Time erases even the strongest hands that once held the reins of power. That night, leaders across the globe felt the weight of this truth. Thrones, crowns, and titles that once seemed untouchable suddenly felt fragile. The ticking of the clock was louder than the commands of kings, louder than the roar of armies. It whispered that no matter how high one rises, the fall is only a matter of time. And in that moment, humanity understood that no power, not wealth, not military strength, not political control, can grant immortality. For ordinary people too, the message was just as clear. Dreams left waiting, opportunities ignored, relationships taken for granted, all of them eventually fade because time does not pause. Just as nations fall, so do moments slip away from individuals who think tomorrow is guaranteed. That night taught the world that the true measure of strength is not how long one holds power, but how wisely one uses the time they are given. Power fades, wealth is lost, armies collapse. But the moments spent in truth, justice, and purpose are the only legacies that withstand the silence of time. That night, when the world realized time waits for no one, the first lesson became clear. Power has an expiration date. For centuries, empires and rulers imagined their strength would last forever. They built walls, armies, and legacies, convinced they could defy the inevitable. Yet history has proven time and again that nothing, no matter how mighty, can resist the passage of time. The greatest kingdoms that once shaped the earth now exist only as ruins, visited by tourists and studied in books. The rulers who once demanded obedience are remembered only through faded portraits and half-forgotten names. Time erases even the strongest hands that once held the reins of power. That night, leaders across the globe felt the weight of this truth. Thrones, crowns, and titles that once seemed untouchable suddenly felt fragile. The ticking of the clock was louder than the commands of kings, louder than the roar of armies. It whispered that no matter how high one rises, the fall is only a matter of time. And in that moment, humanity understood that no power, not wealth, not military strength, not political control, can grant immortality. For ordinary people too, the message was just as clear. Dreams left waiting, opportunities ignored, relationships taken for granted, all of them eventually fade because time does not pause. Just as nations fall, so do moments slip away from individuals who think tomorrow is guaranteed. That night taught the world that the true measure of strength is not how long one holds power, but how wisely one uses the time they are given. Power fades, wealth is lost, armies collapse. But the moments spent in truth, justice, and purpose are the only legacies that withstand the silence of time. That night also revealed that human life itself is the most fragile reminder that time waits for no one. Nations may boast of their wealth, leaders may plan decades ahead, and people may believe they have endless tomorrows, but time always moves faster than we expect. Every second slips quietly into the past, never to return, and with it go the chances we thought would always be waiting for us. Life is not guaranteed, it is a temporary gift, and that realization struck the world like a silent storm. For generations, humanity has lived as though time belonged to us, as if we controlled it. But that night shattered the illusion. People began to see how easily years vanish while chasing goals that mean little in the end. Families drift apart waiting for the right time to reconcile. Dreams remain unfinished because of procrastination, and opportunities vanish simply because people believe tomorrow will always come. The ticking clock reminded everyone that tomorrow is promised to no one. More than politics, more than armies, this truth touched the heart of every individual. Time showed itself as the great equalizer. It does not discriminate between kings and peasants, rich and poor, young and old. When the clock strikes, no one can bargain for even a single extra moment. And that is why every second holds a value beyond gold. That night, humanity learned that life must be lived with urgency and purpose. To wait endlessly is to lose everything silently. The lesson was harsh, but unshakable. Time does not slow down for hesitation, nor does it pause for regret. Every choice must be made, every word must be spoken, and every act of love must be given before the clock moves on. Because once it does, the chance is gone forever. That night also revealed the harsh reality that empires, no matter how powerful, are nothing more than temporary shadows under the weight of time. History is filled with great civilizations that once ruled the world. Their leaders celebrated, their armies feared, their wealth unmatched. Yet today, many of those same empires exist only as ruins, their names remembered in books rather than in power. Time stripped them of their glory, teaching the world that no crown, no throne, and no kingdom can outlive the ticking clock. For centuries, rulers believed their reigns would last forever, building monuments, palaces, and armies as if they could freeze their strength in stone. But time proved stronger than walls and sharper than swords. What was once invincible became vulnerable, and what was once feared became forgotten. That night reminded the world that even the greatest of powers are just moments waiting to pass. The pride of nations, the arrogance of rulers, the illusion of permanence, all fade as time moves forward without mercy. This truth was not just about the past, but also about the present. Modern nations, armed with technology and weapons, boasting of their influence, were forced to realize that they too are bound by the same rule. No matter how advanced humanity becomes, time remains undefeated. It does not bow to inventions, nor does it respect borders. The rise and fall of empires is not an accident. It is the natural order that time enforces on all who forget their limits. That night, humanity saw with clarity that power borrowed from time will always be returned. The world's strongest realize they are only chapters in a story that time continues to write, and no matter how long an empire stands, the clock will one day strike its final hour, leaving behind only lessons for those who follow. That night carried a message heavier than any weapon. Time does not wait for pride, for grief, or for promises left unfulfilled. People often believe they have more of it, more chances to make amends, more days to chase dreams, more years to hold on to what they love. Yet time moves forward, indifferent to desire, blind to power, deaf to pleading. That night, the ticking clock became louder than speeches and stronger than armies, showing the world that once a moment passes, it can never be reclaimed. Generations before had fallen into the same trap, thinking there would always be tomorrow. Leaders delayed decisions, families postponed forgiveness, nations wasted decades in arrogance, all under the illusion that time was theirs to control. But when the silence of that night spread across the world, it shattered the illusion completely. Humanity realized that time cannot be bargained with, it cannot be paused, and it cannot be earned back. Every heartbeat is a countdown, and every moment lost is gone forever. This truth was not meant to inspire fear, but awareness. It reminded people that time is life's greatest currency, and unlike wealth or power, it cannot be stored. It must be spent wisely in the present. Nations can rebuild after wars, treasures can be regained after loss, but the moments wasted in hesitation, in arrogance, in neglect, those are gone forever. That night, Humanity saw its reflection in the mirror of time, fragile, fleeting, and bound by limits it cannot escape. The world learned that what truly matters is not the length of time we have, but how we choose to use it. And in that realization, the silence became a warning. That time will move on, with or without us. That night, the world realized that time is the greatest equalizer. It does not bow to kings, it does not fear armies, it does not wait for the wealthy or the powerful. Every empire that once stood tall eventually crumbled. Every leader who once commanded respect eventually faded. Every civilization that believed it was eternal eventually became a chapter in history books. Time moves forward, unstoppable, erasing monuments, silencing voices, and humbling all who once thought they were untouchable. The lesson that echoed through the silence of that night was simple: no one can escape the march of time. Nations rise and fall, leaders are celebrated and forgotten, victories turn into stories, and even the greatest achievements are eventually left behind. Time does not discriminate. It treats the strong and the weak alike, giving each the same gift and the same limit. This truth shook the foundations of pride, showing the world that no matter how powerful a nation, how influential a leader, or how wealthy a person, time will eventually claim it all. But within that sobering truth was also a hidden gift. If nothing lasts forever, then every moment we do have is precious beyond measure. Every second becomes a chance to love, to forgive, to create, to build something that matters, even if it doesn't last for eternity. That night, humanity was reminded that the real legacy is not found in how long something survives, but in the impact it leaves behind before time moves it away. The world discovered that the clock is not an enemy, but a teacher. Its ticking reminds us of our limits, but also of our opportunities. And in that fleeting awareness, people saw the beauty of life itself, fragile, temporary, yet infinitely meaningful while it lasts. That night taught us a lesson that no book, no leader, no war could ever teach. That time is the one power none of us can control. It strips away crowns, it silences armies, it buries empires, and yet it gives us something more precious than goldsy, the chance to live here and now. Because when the clock keeps ticking, it doesn't ask who you are, how much you own, or how powerful you seem. It only asks one thing: what will you do with the time you've been given? The world may forget names, monuments may crumble, and power may vanish. But the choices we make, the lives we touch, and the legacy we leave, those can outlast even time itself. So remember this: you cannot stop the clock, but you can choose how to spend every beat of it. And in that choice lies the only real power humanity has ever had. Because in the end, the world won't remember how long you lived, it will remember how you lived.